Last time on A Night and Its Moon, Amaris's boys finally came together into one scene, and Amaris acted like their mom and gave them chores. Amaris is simply the best, TM, and she made her friends finally have a conversation. The Flappy Boys convinced Amaris to go on a side quest for them, and she's totally down. The temple that they went to only allowed women, and Amaris went inside to get very vague instructions from the priestess from The Witcher Season 2. Amaris randomly learned about people who can turn illusion into reality, but got no other helpful info. Maybe a magical orb? Amaris is almost certainly a lost elven princess. Nox was still in a magical stupor until the madam fed her some poor dude, and we never explore any of those implications.
Hi, hello, and welcome. This is actually my first video filmed in my new setup. If you would like to see a tour of my whole new office here, you can find it on Patreon. So of course the day that I come to you to do a portion of the read-along, it's cloudy, and the big windows that I have here to provide me with natural light are less useful. They're not completely unuseful. Useless, that's the word. I'm a professional. I write books for, well, not a living, nobody pays me, but I write books. As usual, my skin is all broken out because it's very, very dry here, but yeah, enjoying the new house. And I'm taking a break from painting to read some more of this book. It has been probably 2 weeks since I read this book. I don't remember what is happening. And this is chapter 24. Looks like, not her longest. Looks like maybe like a normal sized chapter. I don't know if Piper knows what a normal chapter looks like, but how long are the chapters traditionally in the Witcher books? Are they long? All right, they are heading off to Queen Moirai's castle. I had to read this first sentence twice to completely understand what she's talking about. The road to Queen Moirai's castle ran through the heart of Priory, a sprawling city belonging to the people outside of the walled city of Abade. Abade? Anyway, so like, why say belonging to the people outside of? Just say that it was a city outside of Abade or whatever. Like, do we need to know that it belongs to people? Because I think that's implied by the fact that it's a city. Also, conveniently, I think Priory is the city that Nox's brothel is in. You could just call it the capital city. Like, there's all these explanations and everything, because, you know, this author just goes on and on. But all it really adds up to is it was a port city and it's a capital city, and I think there are more graceful ways that you can put it than she has. Once again, we're reminded that the other horses' names are 9 and 14. I'm sure I've said it before, but if you want to see horses done well in a fantasy book, I recommend my books. Yeah. I might not be good at everything, but I'm really good at writing horses and animals of all kinds. So Piper CJ, I'm available as a consultant. We hear again how all of the Reavers are just swimming in weapons. That's a trope that lots of people like, the idea of a character just absolutely covered in weapons. But this is a big city, big city. Its largeness is described several times, but people are still shutting their windows when they see Amaris and the other Reavers riding by. And it's like, why? Certainly they have seen all kinds of people, and this would not, like, shock or concern them. Ash leans in and asks, what exactly is our plan? And I'm like, oh honey, there was never a plan, and there's not gonna be. Even your leader sent you out with barely a semblance of a plan. Amaris says, why am I the only one responsible for planning? That feels sexist, if you ask me. Are women traditionally known to be the ones that plan things? Is that a stereotype I'm not aware of? Because I think normally the broad stereotype is that men are thoughtful and women just fly by the seat of their pants and go with emotions, which, by the way, is a stereotype that Amaris is actually perpetuating. She's saying, like, why do I have to come up with a plan that's so sexist, when in reality, she is completely driven by her emotions and indeed does plan to wing it for this scenario that they're walking into. So Malik is completely unbothered by the situation because he is a sexy lamp. Just put a lamp on that horse and no one would be the wiser. Again, her sentences are just awkward. I encourage Piper to go back through and look at her sentences. And again, I have this problem too. Some of my sentences, they make sense in my head, not when you actually read them. Thank goodness for beta readers. I think that some of my beta readers need to go read for Piper CJ because they would not tolerate this kind of sentence. Differentiating itself from the casual strides of the townfolk, a clattering of hooves was rounding a corner up ahead. What? Perhaps something like, Amaris heard hoofbeats coming from a blind corner ahead. Or, hoofbeats from around a blind corner ahead made Amaris reach for her sword. You know, it's like, differentiating itself from the casual strides of the townfolk? Stop it, Piper. So we are told from the description of the city that the streets are very narrow, everybody's going around on foot, and then the hoofbeats they hear turn out to be 6 policemen on horseback, which does not make any sense for this city. You gotta think about these things. If the common man is generally on foot and the streets are too narrow to easily accommodate horses, then the police would also generally be on foot. Or if they were riding horses, they would be doing so singly or maybe in pairs. Not 6 of them riding down one of these supposedly narrow streets. Clearly, they would no longer be needing a plan. Their fates seem to have been decided without them. Piper, you don't need to point out when there's a crazy random happenstance that just gets your characters what they want. You don't need to highlight it. Also, fun fact, you can have your characters come up with an intelligent plan and then perhaps speed up the process by using the hand of God, i.e. yourself, the author, but make it look like your characters had a plan and then that plan was ruined by something else that actually got them to the thing they wanted quicker. Not just, my characters have no plan and, well, hello, hi, the plot just landed in their lap because I needed it to. Wrong kind of peace. She was sent by Samael to be the voice of peace for the Reavers. She has spelled it P-I-E-C-E. For the first time in her life, she thinks that maybe she should, like, not just use her powers immediately. Too bad she couldn't have thought of that when she was messing with her friends. Wow, Piper, I just gotta read you this sentence. Like, girl. Despite having been told with the repetitive defensiveness of someone trying to convince themselves that the Reavers were an important and respectable stronghold for justice, the title was not received with any such reverence by this particular subsect of guards. What the fuck? Why? I'm not gonna do your job for you, Piper, but like, you do not need that many words. Are these your emotional support words? Put some words back, Piper. Save some for the rest of us. She tells them who they are and that they're seeking the queen, and they chuckle, and that's all she's like, okay, I'm done trying. She tries one sentence. They don't react to it the way that she'd hoped, and she's immediately like, well, guess I gotta use my magic on him now.
Boring conversation anyway.
Yep, and then she just uses her power and says, you will escort me to the queen, and they're like, cool, let's go. And then the author feels the need to give us some kind of weird recap, as if we haven't been reading this book, and why is this here? Amaris was an excellent reaver in her own right. She had proven herself as talented a warrior in agility, intelligence, and skill. Over the course of their dispatch, she had manifested her gifts for the power of sight and had saved their lives on more than one occasion. When? Would have liked to have seen that. However, it was for this power of persuasion that she had floated to the rank of small parties, undisputed leader. I think you're supposed to be the in there. Why is any of this? We don't need a recap. We have been here the whole time. Again, this pet peeve of mine, as they walked their horses forward. The horses aren't going to walk sideways or backwards generally, so just say as they walked their horses. Wow. Just in case we forget that Amaris is literally the most badass, the most awesome. The guards at the walled city of Abade, which is a city inside a city, there's like Priory is the outer city, and Abade, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong, is the inner city, would have certainly stopped the Reavers, although Amaris could have probably handled them just as effortlessly. Just in case we forget that, like, nothing is a threat to Amaris, she's just awesome.
You're the most important, most talented, most interesting, and most extraordinary person in the universe.
Here's the thing, when you have a character who is like so invincible, so good at everything, so awesome, you have to figure out other ways to make them interesting. That's why a lot of people don't like Superman as a character, because he's just good at everything. Now, you could argue that the writers can make him interesting, which is true, by giving him emotional things to deal with. It's not all about his like physical strength. But Amaris is given nothing. She has no personality aside from entitled, and otherwise she's just like perfect and flawless, and she's never really in danger, we're told, because she could just use her powers on people. The castle is described not well, but apparently it's supposed to resemble the head of a horse. Is that something from Witcher? Can someone please tell me if like there's a castle like that in Witcher? So they get to the gate finally, and they're greeted by the staff, who of course are like, you can't go see the queen, you're all sweaty and gross, you have to be bathed and cleaned and everything before you can see Queen Moirae, which Amaris could just deal with and be like, I refuse, take us immediately to her, but she's probably not gonna, because everybody wants that funny scene where the main character has to get all cleaned up. Amaris's heart was pounding at having come so close to completing her task. What exactly is your task, ma'am? What is your actual task? Can you tell me? Because I don't think you know. I don't know. What's your task? Talk to the queen. About what? The weather? I mean, I know she wants to talk to the queen about the bird guys, but what was she actually sent here for to talk to the queen about by the Reavers? Stop doing war, you bad queen? Ah, yes. We have yet another charming cliche where we have our badass lady character who will not put on a dress. She knew it was impolite, but she didn't care. Amaris would rather burn down the castle than be forced to wear a frilly dress. Listen, Piper, nobody's doing this anymore. We are over the badass girl refuses to wear a frilly dress. We are now in the time of badass girl also wears frilly dress. So get with the times, Piper. Mightn't Amaris be curious to know how she would look in a dress? Because when she left Farley, the kids all wore like pants and shirts when they were little, gender-neutral clothing for the children. And only when they got older would they put into sort of gender-conforming clothing. And then, but she went to the Reeve before that, so she's always been wearing boys' clothes. Mightn't it be interesting if she was curious about, like, I've never worn dresses before. What if I like them? What are they like? Ooh, this is really soft. Ooh, this is comfortable. But no, she's got to be all like, ugh, ew, oh, I'm too much of a warrior to wear a pretty dress. Get away from me with that disgusting thing. It just makes her feel even more entitled. She uses her magic on these poor servants to make them let her wear pants and a tunic. Great use of your powers there. Glad to see you're not using them frivolously. She's like, I can't wear a dress. It's good that I use my power on these people. What if things went poorly? What if she needed to run or fight? How is she supposed to dive or roll or crouch while wearing skirts and lace and petticoats? Clearly you have not watched Jill Barrett's channel. I will link it below, but she will tell you exactly how to tuck and roll and duck and fight wearing skirts and petticoats.
You can borrow a tie from a gentleman friend or enemy and use this as a belt into which you can tuck the fabric to secure it. You can use an actual belt to do likewise, or you can use a scarf. If your dress is not particularly poofy, it may be possible to use a belt, tie, or scarf to hitch up the fabric of your skirt to make it knee length, allowing you much greater freedom of movement in any unexpectedly martial situations in which you may find yourself. May I remind you that the principal purpose of a ball gown is to be worn for balls, occasions on which you are expected to dance. And dancing, as you may recall, tends to require free movement of your legs. Therefore, if you find yourself in a fight in a giant skirted ball gown, there's probably quite a lot of room under there for your feet and legs to move about freely. Big hoop skirts also have the advantage that it is impossible to tell exactly where your legs are, and it is possible that an enemy sword may become entangled in your skirts or petticoats.
So basically they give her series exact outfit from The Witcher. So, you know, if you ever want to cosplay as Amaris. Piper CJ tries to downplay it and be like, well, the only clothes that they could find that suited her was this outfit for some reason, because they couldn't dress her in just like a regular guy's outfit. So they put her in like the court juggler's outfit, which just happens to look exactly like Ciri's costume from The Witcher. And it's like, why? Why couldn't they just give her... They had no clothing that would fit a small man in this entire castle. Are you kidding me? So it's trying to be like, oh, she didn't wear a dress, but she still had to wear a stupid outfit, even though what she is wearing is like a hot, cool girl outfit. Also, don't the servants wonder that she gave them an order and they just had to obey it? Do they realize that she has powers, or do they just think, oh, we all changed our mind about the dress situation? But she decided that since Audrin allowed them to take his weapons when he came to Farley, that actually she's okay that they have her weapons, which is ridiculous. Not that I want her to use her powers on these people anymore, but seriously, also she's like, I didn't notice them taking all my weapons. And like 2 sentences later, she's like, a Reaver giving up his sword is like giving up a limb. You would have noticed then. She's also mad that the servants are giving her no time to like stop and chill and formulate a plan, and it's like, you had so much time to come up with a plan. By the way, Malik's personality this chapter, our sexy lamp if you recall, his personality this chapter is likes food. And now we're having an extended anxiety sequence where Amaris thinks about how anxious she is about meeting the queen, when all she has to do is just bend the queen to her will. What is she worried about? It isn't even that she doesn't want to use her powers on the queen for whatever reason, like maybe that doesn't seem very, diplomatic. No, she's just like reminding herself that I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna tell the queen what to do. She's just running it over like a mantra in her head just to make sure she doesn't forget that her plan is to go in there and immediately brainwash the queen. Much of this scene, I would say probably the last page and a half, could be removed and we would lose nothing. Then she sees something in the sky outside her window and she's like, that's not a bird. And then she's immediately pissed off because someone is interrupting her again. How dare anyone interrupt precious, perfect Amaris's time? Also, this bird guy who looks like a demon just landed on her balcony and no one in this bustling castle shot him. Rather than saying he whispered, Piper CJ says his words were meeting her ears in a whisper. Piper just got to find every way to use the most possible words for everything. So she's like, get out of here, I don't want you around. And he's like, I'm staying around because I need to like defend you, which is kind of true because even though we're told over and over again that she's a badass who has saved their lives so many times, I have not seen any actual evidence of this. Although it is pretty stupid for him to be here too because he looks like a demon to everyone and he's going to be killed, so like, dumb ideas all around really. He's like, but the queen knows about Ash and Malik. They don't know I'm in their walls. You flew here, you giant bird man. Do you think nobody looked up? I'm kind of confused about whether Gadriel is supposed to be a romantic interest, but now he's grabbed her arms really hard twice, and this time he's also like forced her to, he's done the whole like look at me with the chin thing, and I'm given to believe that that's usually sexy, but the book is like, it's not sexy, so I'm like, is he a romantic interest or not? Or is he supposed to be somebody that the readers can ship themselves with, while Amaris is not necessarily interested in him? So he's a sexy, winged guy that people will probably make fan art of and swoon over without necessarily messing with the Amaris Nox ship. Is that what we're going for here? Then she has a total change of heart and she's like, oh, never mind. I thought you were stupid 2 seconds ago, but now I understand that you're here because this is like your best hope in decades and you just have to supervise it yourself. Boy, the guards of this castle really suck. I'm going to have to imagine that he used some kind of invisibility magic because otherwise, how did he get here? Everyone sees them as demons. That's the whole problem. Okay, now I'm so confused. Are we supposed to ship this or not? Because before it was like he grabbed her, but not in a romantic way. And now it's like she looked at him fully, ceaselessly amazed at how beautiful he was. Irritating though this lovely man may be, is this or is this not a ship? Or are we using this so that the reader believes that she's totally been thinking about Nox this whole time because like as she's gazing deeply into his dark eyes, she remembers Nox's dark eyes, and she says everything reminded her too much of Nox. So many things about him stirred memories of the one she'd left behind, the one you've barely thought of this entire time. The one you could have used your Reaver independence to seek out? No, that one? That girl? And after they've had this oddly romantic moment, he makes fun of her outfit, and she's just like, oh, I'm gonna have to kick his ass later. And then somebody's coming in, so he runs and he hides. And the queen is ready to see her, and we are ready to move on to chapter 25. Which is, oh goodness, it's a long one. It's a long one, everybody. So, but it does look like it's a Nox chapter. So at least there's that. But that doesn't mean very much anymore because I'm annoyed at Nox's chapters as well now. But for today, we are finished. Look forward to more from my new office. I hope you like it because it's going to be my permanent filming area for a long time probably. I'll see you for the next chapter.
Look, I know you're making some very important biscuits, but I need to take the covers off of that chair. Oh, what you sniffing? We'll make some biscuits. Are the biscuits done? Yes, the biscuits are done.
I need to read more chapters of this thing, even though I don't really have time to, because I'm catching up with myself. I had a good backlog, but now I'm catching up, and we need to get this book finished. We're on chapter 25, and there are about 31 chapters, it looks like, so we're getting so close. I put the coverings for the chair over there, and now Nigel is over there making biscuits. We're back with the madam. Again, unclear if we are suggesting that Emily, the girl who died, the redheaded girl, had powers or not, because it seemed like she didn't. But then it seems like maybe she did. The madam is sending her girls into the city to try to lure more people to her establishment, but none of them had the gift of suggestion quite like Emily. Does that mean that she had a power, or are we just saying that she was gifted a suggestion? The magic in this world, I almost said in this game, because it's a video game in book form, it's so undefined. Like I've said, there is soft magic, and then there is some of the magic in these books. I don't know why, because I ran into the same problem with like Jenna Moressi's books, but it seems like these sort of indie girlies, which I am probably a part of, I don't know, like to write some very soft magic systems so the magic can just do whatever they need it to, whenever they need it to. I don't think I've ever written a magic system quite this soft. So for some reason, the mistress has decided that she needs to get the captain of the guard on board. His name is Erasmus, which is honestly kind of a cool name. Yes, I've heard about this. I've heard about this and what's about to happen. And we're already setting up that he's a very evil man. Don't mind the noises, Adam is running around doing whatever. But yes, it's already setting up that he's a very evil man. You have to understand that because of what's going to happen to him. Nox is called the Raven again, but she says that she's actually happy that this guy is evil because it's so much easier to like use her powers on people who are evil with no guilt attached. And yeah, makes it easy. That's why the author is doing it. She doesn't want to have to deal with any complicated emotions. This paragraph starts out, Nox was pulling on her black silk dress and grabbing her cloak. That's the whole sentence. It should be, Nox pulled on her black silk dress and grabbed her cloak. Nox is like, hey, Millicent, I'm going out to lure in the captain of the guard since none of your people have managed it, even though all of these people, I guess, are now working for Nox, and they were like, yeah, we can't get him to come in, when in reality, they were like, not trying to.
Would have been nice to actually see some of these loyalties forming, or at least have some kind of hint that everybody would be more loyal to Nox than the mistress. Like, yeah, maybe they'd hate the mistress, but like, also, the narrative assures us that this is a place where women have power, so wouldn't they maybe like the mistress for giving them that quote-unquote power? It's really unclear why everybody's just suddenly decided, yes, we're siding with Nox against the mistress.
Oh no, his name is Aramis? Wasn't it Erasmus before? Did I miss something? Yeah, it was Erasmus before, and it's Aramis on this page, so I'm curious to find out which spelling is actually the correct one. So Millicent is like, darn, I want to keep Nox under my roof, but also, I really want this captain of the guard guy. I don't know why, but he's the linchpin to my whole plan. We have exceedingly and exceedingly in the same sentence. For some reason, Nox is thinking about like how, oh thank goodness I can use my wiles on anybody except the Fae, because that half-Fae guy was able to resist me. And I think we're putting this in here to remind us that like Amaris is Fae, so we know that their love is real and not just Nox like using her powers on her. Although didn't we find out that Nox's powers only work on men? It's very confusing. It's Aramis again, so I guess Erasmus is a spelling that we are leaving by the wayside, and now his name is Aramis. Millicent, I guess, has decided to go along with this plan because she's hired a forger to make Nox a fake letter of summons into the castle because the captain of the guard lives inside the castle. Good to know that Nox and Amaris are really on the same page when it comes to plans, because the mistress is trying to be like, okay, he's usually here at this tavern, but what if he's not? Then what do you do? And Nox is like, I don't need a plan, I have an invitation. So good to know these two girls are really on the same page as far as planning.
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
We have to be told how Nox is exceedingly clever. You know how we were told over and over again how Amaris is like so good at fighting, so talented, so skilled? Well, now we're getting that from the madam's point of view about how clever Nox is. So we've got kind of the brain and the brawn. But also, as I always say, don't tell me how awesome your character is, show me. And Nox has not been impressing me lately with her intelligence. Millicent gives Nox 3 hairpins that are actually cleverly disguised little bitty knives. Now, of course, Nox has 0 plans to come back. Millicent is making a huge mistake trusting her, but I guess we're supposed to understand that Millicent's sort of vague, undefined greed is her downfall here. Glossy black carriage again. Nox, while she's in the carriage, she wonders if a full-blooded fae could survive her powers, like if she tried to like drain them, would they live? Don't know why she's thinking about this, but okay. Lucky for Nox, she gets to the pub where he usually hangs out, and hooray, he's there. So she's glad that she found him because that means she won't have to use her forged invitation. So, like, I get why we had to have the forged invitation because it's good to have a backup plan, but at the same time we could have also skipped that whole scene and just had her be like, I really hope he's at the tavern because if he's not, I don't know how I'm going to get in. We don't have to state the obvious every time, Piper. Nox was aware of the effect she had on men. We get a paragraph description of Nox's dress, just in case we wanted to know exactly what that looked like. Nox did extensive research on this guy to the point where she was sketching his portrait to make sure that she knew exactly who she was looking for. But she didn't research his favorite bar enough to find out that it is not an inn and tavern, it's just a tavern, so she has no place to take him. Why would she do such careful, meticulous research and not know this detail? Getting lengthy descriptions of the tavern and its patronage. You know the drill. You know the drill with this book by now. Every time we go to a new place or we encounter a new thing, we have to have a very, very lengthy description of it. We have now used the term clout chaser, so if we hadn't already gotten anachronistic language on our bingo card, we would definitely have it now. So even though this book has 2 lead characters who are both queer, all of the women around in this bar are described as jealous of Nox. None of them are like thirsting after her like the men are. The men are all slathering and drooling and oh my gosh, she's so sexy. The women are all staring in jealousy. Also, this sequence is incredibly boring. We're just watching Nox do like little tiny micro movements to get the captain's attention, and it's probably supposed to be tense and interesting, and I'm just so bored. Finally, though, Aramis, I don't know how to pronounce his name, has come over to flirt with her. His eyes were a bright sky blue color that stood out against his hair in a nearly virginal halo. What does that even mean? Piper! What? Reread your sentences, Piper. Have somebody else read them to you. People keep twinkling in this book. He twinkled wickedly. What?
I know what you are.
Say it out loud.
So he finally comes over to talk to her, and he just like immediately is like down to leave with her. So we had pages and pages of preamble of her glances and her subtle movements and her thinking about how this or that moment at the Selkie had prepared her for this, and then he just came over and was like, hey, you're hot, here's a cheesy pickup line. She's like, cool, and then they leave together. He takes her straight into the castle where he lives. It seems like he would not be the captain of the guard if he was such a flagrant security risk. Yeah, even Nox is like, he really shouldn't be leading me straight into the palace, especially if he does this all the time. So even Nox is pointing out how dumb he is. But it's probably because he is a murderer, and I know that he's a bad man from spoilers that I've gotten, so. I'm wondering if he's also some kind of sex demon, though, because she's getting, like, bad juju from him. She's like, this was really easy, this is suspicious. But then again, I often suspect magic, and it turns out it's not. So I don't know what to think about this book, really. Also, we're being told all about their awkward conversation, which is probably fine because I don't want to watch Piper CJ stumble through trying to write another conversation, but in most cases, you would want to write out some of this conversation, maybe not the whole thing, but at least some of it, to give us an example of the awkwardness. Also, Piper keeps saying over and over again in slightly different but not different enough ways that Knox's alarm bells are going off, but she's ignoring it. So it'll be like, this made her nervous, but she ignored it. That made her nervous, but she ignored it. Okay, so he didn't take her to his room. He took her to a torture chamber because he's a bad man. So we will not feel even the slightest bit of remorse for what she's going to do to him. Have you ever played a David Cage game? I believe it's David Cage. He did like Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human. He has a tendency in his games to have a sequence where the female lead is being assaulted in horrifying and new ways, which makes me really wonder about Mr. Cage's headspace. But this reminds me of that. This is the sequence in all of his games where the female lead walks into a situation, no matter how ridiculous it is that she got there, she has to get into this situation where she will almost be horribly sodomized with a drill or something like that.
Don't be afraid.
Now, I would end the chapter here. As she walks into the torture chamber and realizes that bad things are going to happen to her, I would stop the chapter because that's a really good hook. But no, Piper keeps going. The real question is, will Knox put it together that this man lured her here to do horrible things to her, which is exactly what she does to the men at the cell key? Will she realize that, like, they are kind of one and the same in a way, except for obviously he's the captain of the guard and he has all the power, but like, ultimately, they both lure people in and then assault and murder them. So Knox goes for the I'm into it, kinky kind of vibe, and it's taken him off guard. He also has a really pretty face and is very handsome, and again, it just makes me wonder, is he like the male equivalent of a succubus, or is he just a bad man? Just a hot, bad man. But yeah, Knox is pretty sure that he is a serial murderer who lures women here to sadistically kill them. I don't know how nobody else has noticed this. Oh, now Knox has decided to have emotions about being whipped. For the first time in this entire book, he has picked a flogger, and she is having a panic attack because it's a whip. And she had cared so little about that having happened to her that I forgot that had happened to her until she was like, oh no, not a whip. And I was like, why? And I was like, oh yeah, you were whipped at the beginning of the book, but like, we didn't see it, we didn't get any of your emotions about it, and you never had any thoughts about it since. So it's almost like it didn't happen until all of a sudden now you've decided to have PTSD about it. So Knox is like, get me started before you're gonna flog me, big boy. And he's apparent, I'm assuming her magic is part of what's in play here, because he's like, he goes for it. He puts aside the whip and, you know, is gonna have sex with her first, I guess. But of course, the second he puts it in, she's got him, and she locks her legs around him and she starts to kill him. I've heard this line. So she finishes up with him in a very quick scene. A lot of this author's style seems to involve a lot of lead up and a lot of description of the scene before it happens, like what's going to happen. And then the actual scene, be it a fight or a moment or a deadly battle of wills between two succubi or whatever this just was, goes by like that, so fast. She's just not interested in the actual scene, she just wants to build up for it. But yeah, once she has him, she just like completely wins. He doesn't get in a final blow or struggle out of her grasp for a minute, there's no fight, she just gets him and wins. Anyway, the line, yes, shell of a person suit. One of Piper's quality lines that I've heard from a few people. But she did leave him partially alive, which I knew she was going to do, because again, I got spoiled for this, and so she's going to do things to him. She decides to castrate him by putting one of the like strands of the flogger around his bits and tying them super tight. This is why we had to set him up to be the most vile, terrible, disgusting creature, because the reader would have a really hard time forgiving Nox for being so sadistic herself, unless he was just the worst kind of human being that we could ever come up with. The problem for me is that he feels like a total caricature, and so it's like, well, of course he's the most evil, vile creature ever, because we couldn't have a shred of a moment of Nox feeling bad about what she's doing to him. We have to be completely on her side. I can feel the heavy hand of the author looming over this book at all times. I can practically feel her looking over my shoulder going, this is how you're supposed to feel here, and this is how you're supposed to feel here. When I write, I do hope that I get across the emotions that I'm hoping for from my readers. And obviously beta readers help me tweak that and refine that and try to get the reactions from people that I want. But when the book is no longer in my grasp, I fully accept that there are going to be interpretations of my book that I never thought of, things that I never noticed, things that I put in unintentionally or intentionally that are just interpreted a different way. And like, that's part of the fun for me, is seeing what other people are going to get from my book, seeing what emotions they might have that I didn't intend for them to have. And authors like Jenna Moreci and Piper CJ very clearly do not want to have there be any wiggle room for readers to feel anything but exactly how the author wants them to feel at any moment. And for me personally, that kind of takes the fun out of it as a reader. It definitely feels like the author is saying, you must feel this way now, whether you want to or not, and I'm going to make the book tailored in such a way as you could not possibly feel any other way about this situation. Also, I guess he probably isn't Fae, at least, because we know that her powers don't work on a Fae, or at least her seduction powers don't. But she did kind of seduce this guy, so I'm gonna assume he's not a Fae and he's just a very, very evil man. Also, sorry it's getting dark in here. I'm trying to film at nighttime. Terrible idea, but Nox does pay lip service to, I suppose you and I have a thing or two in common, but I suspect that's all the deeper we're gonna go. Oh, okay, I was a little bit wrong. Nox is like, yeah, we're the same. We both use people, we take from people, but the primary difference is that the men I use, well, for them, it's a disembodied heaven on earth. So she's like, yeah, I kill people, but like, it's really pleasant for them while I do it, so therefore it's okay.
A really easy way to solve this would be to make it so Nox needs to feed on people or she will die. Have it be that once she has her Fae awakening as a succubus, that she has to feed. That would solve a lot of your problems, because right now, like, she could stop feeding on people and nothing would happen to her, so it makes it very clear that she's just fine with the evil stuff that she does, because she makes people feel happy while she does it.
She is giving a pretty decent, like, villain monologue as she's, like, taunting him where he's laying on the floor and she's picking out, like, torture devices. I'm listening to her, and in my head, it definitely sounds like the supervillain of a movie. And I don't know if that's how I'm supposed to feel. Because, like, he's such a caricature that I can't hate him because he's not a real person to me. Like, even with a villain, even with somebody absolutely vile, you have to make them feel real, and he just doesn't. He feels like a punching bag, an object that's there for her to be able to beat up and make into her pawn. But as a result, I also can't feel any of her victory about it. I'm not cheering her on going, yeah, torture this motherfucker, because he doesn't feel real. So, and then Nox decides to take a lesson away from this, that she needs to trust her gut from now on, because her gut instinct was that this was dangerous, and she didn't listen to it. And I bet that's never going to come up again. And that's the end of the chapter. Nox standing sadistically over this man who is not a real character. And that's it. I knew this was going to happen, like I said, because I got spoiled for it, but like, seriously, even if I was reading it for the first time without knowing anything was going to happen like this, this guy would still feel like a caricature, a punching bag, a nothing, a bag of sand with a sexy man's face taped to the front of it that we can just kick and hate and not care about because he's just so evil. I hope I'm making sense. It's just not engaging to me. Maybe it wouldn't bother some other people. Maybe it would make them feel really victorious and like, yeah, go Nox, but I'm not one of those people. Anyway, it's getting steadily darker, so I will leave you there. See you next time.
Look, I have one job on this lousy ship. It's stupid, but I'm gonna do it, okay?
KJ, LaFone, Unicorn Jenny, Celia, Neon, Taya, Alyssa, Deborah, My96, Afra, Melissa, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Marween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Ray, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, and Sarah.
Sure, no problem.
Should you find yourself at an event where you are wearing a ball gown when you are unexpectedly attacked by baddies, you will need to know how to gird up your loins for battle. To gird one's loins in a ball gown, first hitch the fabric of your skirt up to your knees, then gather all the skirt material in front of you, pass it between your legs, divide it in two, bring it around to the front and not in front of your waist. You will look like you're wearing a brightly coloured nappy, but hey, one can't be too picky when one is being attacked by baddies.